Hello, my name is Kushal Mosahary, and in this video, I will be talking about rural development and its economic challenges. First of all, let us understand why it is significant to talk about this issue. It's because, as you know, there is a big difference between the urban development and rural development of our country. Understanding this rural sector is very important because it employs 69% of our country's population, and the performance done by this rural sector is not very significant and not very appreciated. So people from rural areas are being forced to move to urban areas in search of jobs. So in this presentation, I will be talking about different challenges being faced by these people. And in doing so, I will be covering introduction, issue challenges, basic objectives of rural development, proposed strategy, and finally conclusion. So let us talk about what the rural development is. So it is basically a backbone of every country's economic condition, and it is a popular belief that a country's growth is directly proportional to its industrialization. But that is not true, because in countries like India, the agricultural sector employs more than 50% of the workforce, and also it contributes to about 20% of the GDP. And the consumption of this sector is huge, which is around three times more than the consumption of urban areas. And though considering the fact that the climatic condition of our country is very serious, and every year there is a scenario where there is a drought and famine problem being faced by these people. So it is very important that India's economic development is being studied under this rural basic environment need of the rural people. So now let us talk about the issue and challenges. So there are basically two factors which impacts the rural economy, which is economical environment and non-economical environment. So as from the image, we can see there's a huge difference between the infrastructure of a urban area and a rural area. So we have to understand that the business market of our country is impacted by these factors, and we have to adapt to certain scenarios considering the following fact that rural environment is very complex and it needs a dynamic strategy, and it also involves rural people's satisfaction and and adopting their ethical values, and also the changing attitude of the rural society. They're focusing on continuous people service, maintain a constant updating technology changes, and finally implementation of people-friendly policies. So these are the few schemes that have been launched by the government of India. So now let us talk about what are the basic objectives of rural development. So it basically consists of four sectors, which is in a broader way. So social perspective, it consists of the social and ethical values of these kind of people, because we live in a society where which is a web of human emotions and feelings. So we have to keep in mind that we don't lose our identity in doing so. Second thing is economical perspective, which is we have to adapt to this schemes and the programs being launched by the government. So by keeping in mind the design, implementation, and the feedback from these people, and also the government launched scheme should be considering the unique profit-oriented strategy for sustainable development. The third thing is a national perspective. So in order to consider the fact that the GDP has to be impacted by this sector, so it has to be understood the rural economic development and how it could be linked or how it could be cooperated with the national development goals. The fourth is global perspective. So we have seen that there's an advancement of technology in rural farming sector as well. So we have to keep in mind that we don't lag behind, and in doing so, we should also understand that these tools are being adopted and understood by the rural people in a fair manner. So these are the few proposed strategies that I had. So first of all, our aim should be to increase the business potential of a rural area. And in doing so, we have to focus on generating employment, better opportunity, and high potential of connectivity between urban and rural areas. So the above perception that we have discussed, the four perception that we have discussed in the previous slide has to have the following points for a sustainable, in adopting a sustainable manner. The first being the profit and growth of small scale industry. So we have to sell our rural workforce to these small scale industries, and also we have to keep in mind that we connect the urban and the rural populations skill level, and also the material. Also, there's a fair exchange between the material and labor between these two sectors. And third, the financial resources of development. So government must generate more money and investment so that the agricultural sector or the rural sector could implement those technology. And also there should be cross-functional help between different sectors. And also, for example, we can have multiple NGOs, and those NGOs can be of the state, center, or local government bodies. and also they can incorporate with the corporate sector and academic and civil society groups and understand what are the requirements of these people who are left out. So, and the last one is cooperation rather than competition. So we have seen that there's a huge competition, and the corporate sector, the private sector are not ready to employ the people with poor labor skills. So we have to understand that we have to take the rural people along with us, and so we should sell our the rural workforce to these small scale industries as well. So finally, concluding my presentation with the fact that we have seen there is a seesaw difference between the rural and the urban development, and this should not happen. The cannibalization of one sector growing and other not should not happen. And also, there's multiple challenges being faced by the government to skill these kind of people and market it to be more employable. And thirdly, the most important fact is education should be must for all the rural people. And lastly, the economic development of the rural government by the government through these four factors, which is we can establish more NGOs and self-help groups who can help each other coordinate, and also the development of technology usage in farming. We have to adapt to those technology as well to increase the productivity and maintenance of social and emotional factors. So keeping in mind that we are not losing our identity, and we are working with the technology in mind, but not by cannibalizing other sectors. And fourth, last one is increasing relationship between the rural business and the macroeconomic effect on the